What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. We got another post show coming your way. We just got Payback 2020 over with, and we are fresh in our opinions, so we're going to break them down, talk about everything that happened on the card, all of the matches, all the results, anything else we want to talk about, and we invite you to do the same thing in the comments below. But who are we? Well, you should know by now, but if you don't, I am your host as always, Tony Mango, and joining me as always are Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert D. Felice.
I wanted payback, but I got no retribution.
Yeah, that's something we're going to have to talk about here. As I said before, drop a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on this. If you're listening to us on one of the platforms like Spotify or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever that does not have a comment section, then hop on over to YouTube. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button if you have not already done that. Ring that little notification bell. Hit the like button on the video as well to show us some support and help boost us a little bit on the YouTube algorithm and the search and everything like that. And very quickly, just a little reminder that we also have that applause button now. So if you want to throw a little spare change our way, you can do that. It's right next to the like button. And we can also have people join as members of the YouTube channel as well, which is basically the same as the Patreon. Of course, if you don't know what the Patreon's all about or the YouTube membership thing, that is all a means for you guys to help us grow. And you could do so with a $1 donation or anything higher than that. You know, $5, $10. The $10 and up give you access to the Patreon exclusive episodes. Right now, we don't have anything on the YouTube side of things like that, but we will eventually have YouTube exclusive episodes as well that are called house shows. And then we've got the Pick Your Poison tier where you can request any kind of special feature that we've got available on the website, and you can kind of steer the ship and tell us what topics you'd like us to do. So if you want us to grow and you want us to get to the point where we're doing many more podcasts and many more articles and just, everything getting to the next level, then consider hitting up the Patreon for that, or the YouTube membership platform, or any of the other means that are on the monetary side of things for that. Let's go into the Payback stuff, starting with the very, very start of the night. Of course, the kickoff. We had the typical panel breaking down things. Not a whole lot going on there, except I will say, shout out to R-Truth for his little moment there. He shows up late to Raw Talk, as he had said. And the reason why is because he was looking at his 2019 calendar. He had a great line here that he remembers everything. He just sometimes forgets the things that he remembers.
I was really enjoying R-Truth in this segment, and I thought the kickoff was fun. Charlie Caruso, I've mentioned this a few times, seems to have a personality as opposed to some of the interviewers. So she's really been making an impression on me. Booker and JBL and Jerry the King Lawler messing with Peter Rosenberg gets old, but it's always fun because it's Peter Rosenberg.
Another great line from R-Truth was when they were talking about Bobby Lashley. He's like, yeah, he put me in Nelson from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
He's the best. Let's see what else we had going on here for the kickoff. We only had the match itself, the IIconics against the Riott Squad. Not good, for a few different reasons. I know Callum was very against this. Tell us your thoughts on this match, Callum.
Well, I wrote in the chat immediately following this that I believe that this was now, because I've been talking about quite heavily about the fact that I'm going to vote for Edge versus Randy Orton from WrestleMania as my worst match of the year. And then this is the first match that I've seen in a while, which has kind of made me question that decision. It was just really, really bad. I think it really got to really terrible territory for me when Liv Morgan made the hot tag. And I know Liv is popular and Liv does get like a lot of attention. People want to see Liv pushed. I think if she is going to get pushed, she needs to learn how to work. Yeah, because everything she does looks very choreographed. It looks like she's thinking about everything she does before she does it. It's very weak. She doesn't have very good strikes at all. Like there were so many like botches or like mistimed spots in this entire thing. The IIconics aren't very good in general in terms of their wrestling ability. They're very charismatic, but that's about it. Ruby is good as well, but she couldn't carry the other three to a decent match here.
I fully endorse you picking this over the Edge match, because to me, the Edge match, it might have gone long, but it had infinitely more value to it than this does.
I still am well, in my mind, I'm still saying that cost me 45 minutes of my life, and this at least got over and done with in less than like 6 or whatever, or however long it was. So I'm not gonna. So I'm still on the fence on both sides of it.
Here's one of my issues with this match. This is just pure bad storytelling, just bad writing. And it's not necessarily just the same thing that I keep repeating 1,000 times, which defeats the purpose of the whole argument. But I talk constantly about how WWE keeps repeating things and now how that's frustrating. That's a different side of this argument. The bad storytelling and the bad writing is you can always tell when somebody's not an adequate enough writer if they've got nowhere for a story to go other than to go back and do the same thing again. And I'm going to go on a bit of a side tangent here that we can get more into on something like Fanboys Anonymous. And if you don't know what Fanboys Anonymous is, that's the site where I talk about the movies and stuff and all the things on geek culture that aren't pro wrestling. So if you want more discussions of what I'm about to talk about, then hit up the Patreon for Fanboys Anonymous and show me that you want more fanboy stuff, because I'd love to get more details into TV stuff and comic books and video games and all that. But I'm going to use an example from some non-wrestling types of things to kind of illustrate this point. The biggest problem with the new Star Wars films is that they serve no purpose other than to go, yeah, those original ones, but with these characters, where the story of the first 6 films, the whole Anakin Skywalker saga, if you from episode 1 all the way through Return of the Jedi, is a story. There's problems with it, admittedly. Jar Jar Binks is god awful, and the acting is terrible in some of these lines and everything like that. CGI is wonky, whatever. Problems with them, but they're a cohesive story. And at the end of Return of the Jedi, you have the end. That's the end of it. You can go in a different direction. You can tell the story of Luke creates a new Jedi Order, and maybe, I don't know why I'm going to actually praise this, but like even those comics that went with the Yuuzhan Vong, they were telling the next story of like, yeah, but then this happens. Okay, that's interesting. It's maybe not great, but it's at least going somewhere. These J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson films, they just said, let's do the Empire again. Let's just have the same, this is Anakin Skywalker, but it's Ben Solo. It's whatever. They just said, we have nothing to say unless we go back and undo the things we did before. Plenty of other movies and sequels do this kind of problems. TV shows do it with episodes too, where one episode the characters learn a lesson, and then on the next episode they've forgotten that lesson, and that's the only story that they can tell, is because they're a bad writer and they can't figure out anything to do but to redo the same journey again. We went through the whole idea of the Riott Squad becoming the Riott Squad again. We already did it. It's done. They referred to themselves for the past 2 or 3 weeks as the Riott Squad. They came out on this match wearing matching gear that showed a new catchphrase about how they're united again. Live to riot and riot to live, which riot to live doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but whatever. That illustrates that they are on the same page again. And what was the story of this match? Oh, I don't know if they're going to be on the same page. They don't trust each other. The fuck you mean they don't trust each other? They went through that for weeks.
Okay. I agree with everything you just said, but it seems like furthering my belief that Liv Morgan's whole gimmick is 2020 girl on the internet that is just completely conflicted. It seemed to be that Liv is just so willing to believe that Ruby doesn't like her, even when she knows that Ruby likes her. You ever like have that situation where you can slap somebody in the face with it, but they're still like, I don't trust you? That seemed to be the issue here, that Liv was just like, yeah, but they said that you hit me, so I believe them, and I'm leaving.
Liv, her character in your mind is fucking moron, essentially.
Well, not so much, just emotionally conflicted human. Like I don't know how to describe it well for this podcast, but I just think that they want to tell the story of Liv kind of coming into her own and still being leery of Ruby Riott since they were just fighting earlier this year. But then she decides to get the hot tag, and as Callum said, shit went off the rails. But at least they won the match. The feud is over, hopefully, and Riot Squad could be tag team champions by Clash of Champions.
We'll see if that ends up happening. Yeah, I didn't like this at all.
I think I had the line, and I think the main note that I wrote in my list was a lot of loud screaming coupled with some not great wrestling and weak strikes. That's basically the summation of this match.
2010 Kelly Kelly?
Come on! At least they don't do that anymore as much.
I did pick up vibes with that. With the there was at one point Peyton Royce hit a clothesline where she dives in the air and lands on her knees, and I thought, yeah, that's Kelly Kelly right there.
So those clotheslines, the forearm strikes, and the one-legged drop kicks, those are very indicative of that era.
I do want to shout out, we had several tag team matches on this show. I like that all teams looked like teams and they were in matching gear.
That's the least they can do, right?
Yeah.
And they had some team names for some of them. Not all of them, but some of them. So, yeah, I think it's infinitely better part of this kickoff that Jerry Lawler had one of his classic old jokes of that he and Paul Heyman couldn't warm up to each other if they were cremated together. That was better than the entire Riot Squad situation. So, good to know.
I do kind of wonder why, like, that people are confused about why WWE's audience skews to significantly over 50 years old when you have Jerry the King Lawler, Booker T, and JBL on a panel show, essentially talking about the entire thing. So, yeah, remember these guys when you were young and actually cared about this stuff?
You mean to tell me that the 18 to 34-year-old demographic didn't get the Bill Dundee reference from Jerry Lawler?
No, probably in the same way that nobody got the Haystacks Calhoun joke that Shayna Baszler did on the most recent episode of Raw.
That was surprising.
I was shocked about that one too. I forgot about that. So the Morgan and Riott against the IIconics match, did that have any kind of repercussions for the fantasy league?
No, we do not have any of those 4 people on the fantasy league team, so no repercussions on that end. But there will be some more coming very, very shortly.
Nothing drastic as far as picking the winners for the night? Or do you want to do that like just as wrap up at the end?
I could do that as a wrap up at the end because I'll spoil this much at the very end. Most of us got pretty much every prediction right for this entire show. There's only a few differences here, so it'll get to the end. There's only one prediction separating all 4 people.
Oh wow!
So and the person who has the one ahead is the one that won. So we'll get to that towards the end.
Alrighty, so let's move on here. Before we fully move on, I've mentioned a couple different ways for you to help show your support for us. I mentioned the Patreon, I mentioned fanboys and all that stuff. I'll just very quickly also mention the merchandise shops because I am not going to make any Live to Riot and Riot to Live type stuff, but if you would like to get some other kind of t-shirts or some hoodies or some different things of different designs, then by all means...
Very excited for the Mango to Tony and Tony to Mango.
maybe I will do that. Maybe that'll be how I get around that. And then I'll just backtrack and do the same thing again and be like, look, it's different because it's the same again. Yeah, but you can, if you want to go with things that are similar designs, you can pick up a Team Mallet or Team Gavel. Those are things if you follow those old jokes. But there's Redbubble and there's TeePublic, and there are shops on both of those things for Mango Tees and Fanboys Anonymous and the Smark Out Moment stuff. So if you want to browse those catalogs and maybe pick up a sticker or a magnet or a mug or a curtain, whatever it is, go ahead and do that. And that is awesome if you do. Let's go to the first match of the night. This was Apollo Crews losing the United States Championship against Bobby Lashley. And not much that I had written down here. I pretty much just wrote, I'm pretty sure they're starting off with a title change to kind of kick the pay-per-view off. And then, hey, look, it's full Nelson months for the win. The match was fine. Nothing really to complain about. I'm not going to, bitch about it or anything like that. Totally fine. I like the the photo op moment at the end. It's a nice little touch.
Yeah, it was fun. I thought the match was good. Right person won. Lashley feels like a big deal again. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, they gave Lashley most of the match. He looks pretty dominant throughout it. They didn't just try and just completely sweep Apollo Crews' title reign under the rug. He got a decent amount of offense into it towards the end, had a good comeback. One of the about 50,000 frog splashes we saw throughout the entire night in this match. So, but yeah, it was convincingly enough. Lashley locks in the full Nelson, and yeah, he's added a new twist to it by having the grapevine as well as the full Nelson. So that was a good touch to make sure that he got the submission. And yeah, like you said in the photo op, the Wakanda Forever pose at the end, that was a nice moment.
Yeah, for anybody who does not know, Chadwick Boseman passed away the other day. Awful. That's not something to get super deep into on the Smark moment stuff. But again, Fanboys Anonymous, if you want more. I would like to see Lashley hold this title for at least a little while before they move on to somebody else. And I think we're all kind of sort of in the same arrangement of more than likely Keith Lee is one of those major contenders. But if they don't go with Keith Lee, who do you guys think would be the next possible champion?
Dominik.
I think Dominik and Ray are more set in the tag team scene at the moment. I would say that if it's not Big E, and it most likely is Keith Lee, but if it's not, I'd say you trade Big E to Raw and you get him going after it instead.
See, I think we're going to get Lashley Big E at Survivor Series. I think Big E will win the Intercontinental belt.
There is a good chance for that, depending on if they switch from Hardy to somebody to Big E. I don't think Big E would beat Jeff Hardy, but I could see maybe Kevin Owens winning. If they want to do that, Owens is a big enough name that he could beat Lashley and it wouldn't seem crazy. Maybe Mustafa Ali. I don't really think that that's the way to go, but at some point they got to try to do something with him. I still think it's Keith Lee, though.
Well, right now I'm thinking they just might hotshot Keith Lee all the way.
They might too. We'll talk about that in a few minutes.
I'm enjoying the presentation of the Hurt Business as well. They look like they're a big deal.
Yeah.
So, and that's the least that you can ask for, really. That they look at least like they're impressive. Overall,
I like this stable a lot more than even what the OC was bringing.
I'll agree with that.
So I think that a good way to go about doing this and building a little bit more steam would be to have MVP and Shelton Benjamin win the tag team titles. So I'm hoping that happens soon. Maybe Clash of Champions.
I think I'd like to see that, and then to be the team that lose it to Dominik and Ray.
I think that's kind of how they're going to go. Yeah.
Yeah. But one thing we probably glossed over is the fact that Crews attacked Lashley after the bell. So we're going to get a rematch, obviously, somewhere down the line, whether that's a Clash of Champions or just on an episode of Raw. But I thought that was that's not really a babyface thing to do, is it? Because you tapped out clean to a guy who was the better man on the night, and so you just attacked him post-match because you're a really sore loser.
Well, that's very indicative of WWE's booking right now, is let's have people act like heels, even if we don't necessarily want them to be heels, just because that'll get people talking, and let's set up a rematch. It's really what they love doing. Those are the two major philosophies that are happening. So I am fully expecting just a rematch at Clash of Champions, and for them to drag this out 4 weeks from now and just be like, Crews gets another shot. But I'd much, much, much rather see Crews have his rematch, if they're going to do it, on Raw and set up a new challenger for Lashley just for something different, because I'm sick and tired of having to... It's bad enough when you're repeating so much that they're repeating things that you are feeling like your content is getting bad because you're just repeating it all the time. You know what I mean? I'm gonna try not to, but when
But we haven't gotten
WWE,
to Sasha and Bailey yet. Hold
yeah,
on.
when we get to the points where we can't avoid talking about how they keep repeating things, it's hard not to, because that even applies to the Big E versus Sheamus thing. I would have been a lot more into this if we hadn't already seen Big E versus Sheamus twice in the last 2 times. But it was fine. Not a highlight, not a low point, just a thing. And Big E wins with the big ending. Not a fan of that finisher, never really been, but it makes sense to not have Sheamus tap out again and, tap out again to the I'm not tap out again. Wait, actually, did he tap out?
He didn't tap out. He beat him with a roll up, Tony. That's what I had.
That's right. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking about the Miz and yeah. So Sheamus isn't the type that I would have had tap out to begin with. He really pretty much only taps out to people like John Cena's and stuff. And the big ending's not great, but it's at least his established finisher. So that makes sense. It's just one of those things that this really shows that this pay-per-view didn't need to exist. And if we could have gotten away with Payback and took a few of the matches at Payback and put it at SummerSlam, it would have made for a much better overall presentation, I think. It was okay.
I thought the match was good. I thought they were really harping on the whole seriousness debate that people keep having around Big E and how, well, you can't dance and gyrate like the New Day anymore. You got to be serious. He's already had 2 great promos on Talking Smack that people only see on Twitter because it's Talking Smack. And I think they have a really big star on their hands with Big E. Bigger than I think they might have thought.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match. It was very physical, very hard hitting. Sheamus was in control for a lot of it. You could see how hard they were both working. That it was just, it was a strong showing by both. Big E wins. I wouldn't say convincingly because I think Sheamus took most of the match, but he got the victory, which is the thing that matters the most. He cut a good promo at the end of it by just like screaming at Corey Graves that like you got to believe me because like the fans believe in him, so you've got to believe in him now. And yeah, it looks like he has a lot more intensity and drive and direction that he's probably had, certainly as a singles wrestler, his entire career at this point.
And he had cool gear. It was very Nickelodeon inspired. I saw the All That logo on the boots, and I couldn't make out what was on the gear, but I could tell it was all that like 90s Nickelodeon aesthetic. So great gear for Big E.
I know Rob was saying earlier that he thinks that this is gearing up Big E for an Intercontinental title run. I think it will do down the line, but I think he's next. Well, he's not next up. I think he's going to be someone served up to Roman Reigns pretty soon.
I could see that happening. And I wouldn't mind that either. Like, yeah, I mean, Big E gets a shot. Roman Reigns puts him down. Big E doesn't take that loss with like, well, that's the end of that whole thing. But he just goes, I'm going to pick myself up and I'm going to keep working at it. And then he wins the Intercontinental title. Like, I'd be cool with that. What's your favorite Nickelodeon show?
Rugrats.
Kenan and Kel, probably.
I don't know. I think I'd probably go, back in the day, Rocco. So maybe that one.
Rocco's great.
I'd love to talk more about that kind of
Please
stuff too.
don't.
Fanboys Anonymous. Let's move over to Matt Riddle versus King Corbin. I like the little touch that they added ahead of time where Elise Ashton was like, hey, Matt, did you see that new tweet that Corbin put out? Which was saying, I'm going to prove that that Matt Riddle is a failure in the ring, just like he's a failure at home. And, mentioning the infidelity situation.
People were not okay with this.
No, this shows how shitty a heel that Baron Corbin actually is. Because he's got to find some level of heat by actually making a real-life situation where Matt Riddle had admitted that he cheated on his wife. And it's led to all these accusations against him. And Corbin decides, oh, this is a great thing to use for heat. This is a great life thing that I can pull up here. Not knowing, like, whether other situations might come up in the future which make them look even worse. Just the reason why you have to pull on that sort of stuff is because you're not doing your job properly and people don't actually care about anything that you do in the ring.
I liked it.
I think
I bet you like this match as well, then, because this match fucking sucks as well.
I actually liked the match, yeah. I liked that King Corbin was the power game, and he gave Matt Riddle a thing to fight back from and be the underdog, and yeah, I liked it.
Well, see, I hate the fact that Corbin, despite like being probably about 200 pounds lighter, was moving like Big Show at his like heaviest, just like plodding around the ring, moving extra slowly, thinking that, oh, we really hate him because he's stalling for time and things like that. No, well, I hate you for that, but you're also making me want to watch this show. You're not making me want to see you get beaten up. You're making me want to just switch the channel, as in every single match you pretty much have. This is the most boring match that I've ever seen Matt Riddle have. It was absolutely terrible. Corbin took too much of this match. Riddle eventually gets the victory, which is good. It's like the final 2 minutes were probably the best part of the entire thing. But and then I know I'm burying the lead and just going through this entire thing, but then he gets attacked backstage. I mean, this feud has to continue. Fuck this. Fuck Corbin. Fuck all of this. This is terrible.
I almost don't want to follow that. So for starters, I didn't know about the tweet until during the show, and then when I saw the response to the tweet, this was bad. Because, yes, Riddle has admitted that he has cheated on his wife. He has denied fully any assault allegations. But the only reason we even know Riddle's ever cheated on his wife is because of sexual assault allegations. And people who are already calling for the firing of Velveteen Dream feel like this is WWE turning this into a storyline, basically saying, all right, we're going full throttle with this. Fuck off anybody who wants to see anything done about this. Outside of that, Callum is right. This is the most boring match Matt Riddle has ever had. And I like Corbin. I'm ready for the King gimmick to end.
I have a post that I'm going to be writing up about that soon.
I think he'd benefit greatly from Raw Underground and beating the shit out of people. Because my whole thing with Corbin is he acts like a puss, but he's nearly 7 foot. Why is he ever attacking people from behind or doing anything like that? He should take people straight on because he's a badass, and they just don't treat him like that. And Riddle wins, but Riddle is kind of permanently in that, oh, this is always going to be awkward because people are always going to complain about it anytime he does anything. I feel like he's suffered already from moving to the main roster.
One thing I didn't like about this, the finisher that he did, they're just calling it the floating bro.
That is apparently what Matt Riddle calls it.
So it's just, he's the original bro and the king of bros and the bro that runs the show, and it's the bro Derek and the floating bro. And
bro, are you
come
not
on,
getting the theme here, bro?
Does everything have to just be the one word though? Like you can't go with like anything with that stallion name, maybe?
I don't like the bro Derek. I really want them to rename the bro Derek because that's dumb.
What's even worse about those, like the floating bro? He doesn't float. He falls to earth. That's the opposite of floating.
Yeah, I'm not
The
digging
falling
that.
bro makes more sense.
Falling bro, yeah. Not a
Or the
fan.
broating flow. Who cares? The broating flow.
Not a big fan of that, but I did like the match. I thought that this was one of the better parts of the night. And as I just mentioned a moment ago, if you are interested in the idea of, hey, what would they do if they switched this whole King Corbin thing up? Yeah, new segment going to be debuting a little bit soon. Going to write up something when I get a friggin' chance to, of something that I've finally decided on the name. If you've seen on the Mega Maniacs, I've been trying to figure it out. We're going to go with Creative License, where it's just going to be sort of, hey, you want to book something? What would you do? It's kind of fantasy booking, but it's not actually setting up the card and saying this is the full card for whatever pay-per-view. This is more so, you got an idea? Tell us what the idea was. Pitch it to me. That kind of a thing. So put that up on the website soon. It's not going to be in podcast form. It's just going to be in article form. Check it out when it's up. Let's move over to the Women's Tag Team Championship match. The Golden Role Models losing the titles to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They had a little thing ahead of time about training backstage. And, you know, as much as I hate a lot of what all this is about, I kind of like this approach that they're doing with Jax and Baszler, where they're making it like the way that they did this ahead of time. They were saying, hey, we don't get along and everything like that, but we'll probably win those titles if you follow my lead. And then it was like, hey, no, fuck you. We're not following your lead. You're making sure that you don't get in my way. Push, push. All right, let's train. Like that kind of thing. That was kind of funny. And I'm not a big fan of Nia Jax, but I liked her ridiculous post-match celebration stuff.
I hated it.
I liked Shayna making Bayley tap out and having Sasha pretzeled in with the finisher. Not bad.
That was cool. I mean, first of all, I hate the fact that when you have an easy out to actually extend the Sasha and Bayley story, where you just have, okay, Jax and Baszler couldn't get along, this is when you decide, you know what? I think it's time to pull the trigger on Sasha and Bayley. I liked the submission at the end because that was fucking badass. It's the most badass Shayna Baszler's looked since the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. And I can't stand what Nia Jax is doing. What was that shit at the end of the match?
More interesting than a lot of other crap that's been happening, that's for sure.
No, her Tamina shirt was more interesting than that weird shit at the end of the match. Why is she acting like she's 12 and has never done anything before?
Yeah, that closing, just screaming down the microphone and being super excited. That was just, I don't know what that was. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea to do. It was just like it cuts out the opportunity Shayna could have had to cut a promo. Could have cut an opportunity Nia could have had a decent promo just to have her scream down the microphone and just be really annoying. I don't know what that sort of the message I'm supposed to send when like these two are now your tag team champions, and I assume we'll hold it for at least a little while. So to make them both repellent almost immediately by just being super annoying is a little bit early to start doing that side of things. In terms of the match,
you know what this is? It's Team Hell No without the chemistry.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. Me saying positive things about this does not mean I think this is going to end well. This is going to be awful. There's absolutely no way this is going to be the best trajectory they could have gone. I'm just sick and tired of seeing the Bayley and Banks thing, and I finally am like, thank God they're moving a step forward. Like, so I'm just happy about whatever. It's like, fine, have Nia Jax act stupid at the end of this. Have them be the champs. Just move on, and yay, some things are changing.
I'd say for the most part, I quite enjoyed this match, just mainly due to how well Banks and Bayley works the entire thing. They're just, I'm starting to get a great level of appreciation for both of their in-ring work and their character work than I have ever had really before in these last few months. And that really came to the fore in this one, especially when they were working with Nia, because Nia can't do anything. Like, early on, it was a case of Nia got knocked off the apron, and she was grabbing her leg and trying to convey that her knee injury had flared up again. But then when she makes the tag, she gets in the ring and she's not selling anything because she doesn't know how to work. And eventually they get a chop block in and they start doing some stuff to her. But once you get Baszler in and Baszler's working with these two, then it gets a lot better. And yeah, I think that the finish was one of the most creative and well done finishes they've done in a very long time. Just made Baszler look absolutely great. Having Sasha use her own arm to force Bayley to tap out means that there's another reason for these two to start falling out, because Bayley can basically just say that, well, I wouldn't have tapped out if it wasn't you choking me essentially to cost us the title. So yeah, I think this was all the match itself and the result I'm okay with. And yeah, I think that it moves the story along, but not at a super rapid pace. They haven't broken up yet. There's still going to be time for this eventual feud to bubble up a little bit more.
After that, we got Keith Lee versus Randy Orton. This was short.
Yeah.
Like, really short.
A lot of things.
It's like 5 minutes long or something. And I didn't like that. I didn't like how Keith Lee was supposed to have new theme music, and he didn't.
Yeah, I knew from the source it was coming from that wasn't something to bet on.
Who was the one that was trying to break that? Didn't he say that?
No, he said I'm working on it. and then this weird Twitter account was like, he's gonna have new theme music and it'll be sung by this person. And yeah, no. I hate the ring gear. I'm just gonna get out of the way right now. I know he wins, and I know everybody's excited because they put him over clean, but the ring gear alone tells me they don't get Keith Lee. The fact that on Saturday he was wrestling, without a shirt, with regular trunks, doing his thing, and by Monday now he's got to be covered up all the time, and he's maybe wearing a skirt. I'm not feeling what they're doing with Keith Lee.
Yeah, the presentation is all wrong. I want to get that out of the way, but the entrance is still all wrong. And even though I liked the parts of the attire because there was clearly like a Black Panther inspiration with his jacket and all that other stuff, the fact that he's now covered up, it's like Vince McMahon just suddenly realised, oh, he's got man titties, so we've got to put a vest on him all the time. It's like every other fat dude that's ever come through the company in like recent years. You can't have him actually show his gut because that will offend the 60-year-olds that watch this program. But then the actual match itself, even though it was short, it was decisive. I mean, I guess in a way it wasn't because Orton did get his fair share of offense in this one, but Keith Lee got a victory pretty quickly on, beat him with his move, clean in the middle of the ring. It sets Keith Lee up immediately because this is the guy that just took out the WWE champion, makes Keith Lee look a lot stronger than he did on his first night in. I kind of feel like it would have been better if he did this the first night in on Raw, and then on the pay-per-view, if you wanted to do this again, maybe you could have had Orton win because it wouldn't have hurt as much because, let's face it, more people watch Raw than watch this show. So even though you took this opportunity and, this made Lee look great, and I'm not taking anything away from him winning. I think that was the right decision to make for him to actually win this match clean. But less people are going to see that, and people that only watch Raw and don't watch the pay-per-views think Lee is not that impressive.
Or maybe have Lee win on Raw and have Retribution pop up here and cause a no contest or something like that.
Yeah, whatever you want to do with that side of thing. But Lee should have won the match on Raw rather than like this. And I know again, it's going to make people feel like we're like sour grapes because I'm just going to commend them with the fact they made the right decision in the end by having Lee just pin Randy Orton. That is the right decision. So good on them for doing that. They should have done better the first time around.
Everything surrounding that is in question and can be nitpicked and can be, thumbs down. It's the only positive that really comes out of this is, oh wow, you didn't screw Keith Lee. It's really kind of the way to look at it.
I as much as I said I don't dig the presentation and anything like that, I also think we could be looking at a situation where it's Keith Lee, Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. And I do think they could push him real quick. And then by Mania, he'll be one of those guys that he'll be Universal Champion in the fall. And then by Mania, he'll be working for the US Championship. And we'll have to act like it's a big deal.
I don't think that's how they're going to go. I think Keith Lee is going to fall into the more positive side of things. He should, at the very least. Let's put it that way. That they shouldn't screw him over the way that they've screwed over like the Ascension or EC3 or other people that have been on the main roster, went nowhere, then ended up leaving or something. But I don't think he's going into that Universal title thing anytime soon. I think that this was a way to get him a big win, and he'll probably lose something next. Now that he's gotten that win, to kind of be like, well, he won, so now he can lose. I think we're going United States, and I could see Keith Lee versus whoever the Intercontinental Champion is that beats Jeff Hardy by Survivor Series versus whoever the North American Champion is, because right now it's Damian Priest, and maybe it will still be, but maybe in the meantime Cameron Grimes wins it, maybe I don't know, whoever. But
I personally see this leading to a triple threat match at Clash of Champions, Orton, Lee, and McIntyre for the title. And I don't think Lee wins it there, but I think that could be an opportunity where Orton does win it, and then you get a match between him and McIntyre somewhere down the line as well.
Hell in a Cell.
Keith Lee, at Hell in a Cell, and Keith Lee gets dropped from the equation. He goes to whatever level that he's going to be fighting at for the next couple of weeks or months. But he gets this one championship opportunity because at the end of the day, he did just beat the number one contender, so he does deserve a match for the title.
Well, is Orton the number one contender? Because he was given a rematch out of pity, not out of still being the number one contender necessarily.
Yeah.
You're still number one contender if McIntyre says that you're next up, essentially.
Yeah.
So
I mean, who else would it be?
Yeah,
you know,
whether he got it by pity or earned it, at the very least, he's the guy that just put the WWE champion on the shelf. So Lee at least would earn an opportunity to fight for the title,
right?
Or at least earn an opportunity to have an opportunity for the title, or something along those to that effect.
Hey, did you know if you get kicked in the skull 3 times, it equates to a hairline jaw fracture?
Yeah, I don't quite get where they're going with for that one. I mean, I understand they're going with, oh, that's something you could come back from a little bit quicker, but it's not where he kicked him. So it's a little bit weird if you're like, oh man, like I dropped that bowling ball on my foot. My nose really hurts.
Well, actually, it turned out that like the first 2 pumps didn't do that much damage, but it turned out the second one actually turned McIntyre's entire head like 360 degrees. Yeah, so when the third punt hit, it hit him right in the jaw. So that was the issue with that one.
Got it.
For some reason, I'm having this image in my mind. In Super Mario 3, you got that game where you have to line up the top and the middle and the bottom of the mushroom head and all that stuff. I just got that in my head. Then we moved on to the Seth Rollins and Murphy against Dominik and Rey Mysterio match. This match had taken place on Raw, and it ended because of Retribution, which, let's talk about them. Outside of me just going into the whole, my God, we've seen this before, let's move on with the whole repeat thing. We got no Retribution tonight.
I'm 100% surprised about that.
So,
maybe it's got something to do with what Callum said about how more people watch the TV.
Well, we didn't get them on SmackDown either.
Well, because
that was all
Roman
about
Reigns is back. Yeah, Roman Reigns is back. You can't take anything away from basically whatever show that Roman is going to be on. You can't have Retribution because that takes some light away from Roman. So I think it's more. I would like to justify it with the idea of, well, they know that not many people are watching the pay-per-view, so why would they try and get their message across at a time when less people are watching? They save it for, well, what should be Raw and SmackDown. I mean, who knows? Maybe they just dropped the entire angle and they're hoping that we forget about it.
I'm starting to think that that's the case.
If they didn't do the Raw thing, if they had gone like fully Survivor Series,
maybe they're Raw. Maybe they've become Raw exclusive now. Who knows?
It'd be nice to know eventually, because we got to start moving with that thing at some point, because it's rapidly losing steam.
I mean, eventually they're going to have to find themselves on one brand or the other. They're not going to be cross-branded, I don't think. So if they decided, okay, we're going to put Retribution on Raw now, so they're only going to make interferences on the Raw side of things, then, well, so be it, essentially. There's not really much anybody can do about it, but maybe it was just for the first couple of months, they just didn't know what side they were actually going to end up on, so they had them appearing on both shows.
I say just abandon it. I mean, look at what this group's done so far. They show up and people go, hey, that's kind of interesting. And then immediately the next show, everybody's like, look at these twerps. And then since then, all they've done is get progressively less and less threatening. Where
getting progressively bigger.
Well, it comes to the point where you talk about the fact that can really either Raw or SmackDown really sustain like 6 or 7 more heels on the roster? Like, and if you're trying to present them as like a big deal, then can either side really have that sort of level of thing? Because on Raw, the top babyface is Drew McIntyre and you have Keith Lee, but below that, like, you've got Owens, you've got Mysterio and Dominik, but they're in the more like the tag team side of things now, and you've got Apollo Crews, but you haven't really got a huge array of top babyface talent. On SmackDown, I mean, your top 3 stars are all, you don't even know whether they're babyface or heels.
Mm-hmm.
So
there is way too unbalanced of a heel and babyface thing going on in WWE right now. It's all 3 brands too. That's the thing. Look at NXT. They don't have a whole balance of anything going on either. They've got Finn Balor, who acts like a heel, even though he's kind of positioned as a babyface, and he's going to be fighting against 3 other heels on Tuesday to determine who the champion is, to backtrack after the other heel champion wasn't able to be the champion. Then your next up is Damian Priest already, who was just a heel not that long ago. And you're really like, everybody's just a heel now. And it's just not working out all that well.
Shades of gray.
Well, at least Dominik and Rey Mysterio got a win this time. This is, I think, the first win that the Mysterio clan has gotten throughout this whole entire feud, maybe. Every single week, they just get their asses kicked, or they come close to winning and then lose. I don't remember a single time that they've won anything. If they have, it's been like, I don't know, like Carrillo and Black win a tag team match with Murphy and Theory or something like that. Which, by the way, Theory's not even in the group anymore. Theory is in NXT now. So we're down to Rollins and Murphy, and we might not even be down to that anymore because it seems like Murphy may be on the outs a little bit now that he lost this match.
Well, I believe this is what Callum has been talking about. He doesn't like the Messiah gimmick, and it looks like it's unraveling, and it may be time for Rollins to go on paternity leave within the next couple months. So maybe after Hell in a Cell or after Survivor Series.
I'd be cool with it ending tomorrow.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the gear again, Monday Night Messiah and Disciple gear in sync. I thought Ray's gear was inspired by Ultimo Dragon. Somebody feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. I thought it was cool. Dominik had the exact same gear as he did at SummerSlam.
Minus
Why
the
do I
hood.
pay so much attention
Yeah,
to
without
gear?
the hood. Yeah. So that was an improvement.
Well, there you go.
He took that in the right direction at the very least.
Yeah, this match is probably the best match on the show.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I'm still not a huge fan of the Messiah gimmick, but I can definitely see more matches between Rollins, Murphy, Mysterio, and Team Mysterios because Dominik looked great in this match. He's still impressing with the work that he's doing so far. Ray looked great. Rollins and Murphy were really good as like the imposing heels, just separating them out really easily and just beating them around ringside for the most part. And then there's just one big mistake with the buckle bomb and Murphy kicking Rollins and costing them the match. Yeah, give Dominik the pin so it makes him look a bit more impressive. I would be totally down with both Mysterios holding the tag team title sometime soon because that would be. Has there ever been a father and son tag team champions?
Not that I can recall, because I can only think of a couple instances where a father and a son were able to actually step in the ring together. Period. That's like the Ortons and
Shane and Vince.
Shane and Vince
did it before. Bruno and David, at WrestleMania at one point.
I mean, you had Flair and David Flair at the same time in WCW, but that still doesn't count WWE side of things and stuff too.
You had Judy Bagwell, but not with Buff Bagwell as as tag champions. So that would have been something.
I am all for Dominik and Rey being tag champs. And if they win that at WrestleMania, or if they win that and they're carrying it into WrestleMania or so, cool. Have the Hurt Business beat the Street Profits, and then have them either feud with some people down the line and then lose it to the Mysterios, or lose it to the Mysterios. I mean, I'm down for that. They're showing me enough that I like it. So I'm sick and tired of this feud. I want this to end, but I don't want Dominik and Rey to end.
I give Rollins credit. He's only had 3 rivalries in the last 12 months.
That's insane.
But I think that at least this, I don't think this union between Rollins and Murphy is coming to an end just yet. But it's clear that Rollins is angry at Murphy for the way that this result happened, and so I think there's going to be some sort of punishment. I guess like he's going to force Murphy to atone for his sins on the next episode of Raw. It's eventually going to lead to the fact that Murphy's going to break away from the group, maybe have a match with Rollins. Maybe he's the one that takes Rollins out before he goes on paternity leave. And so that's okay. So Murphy beats an established star. Maybe that's something to try and launch Murphy into a more prominent position going forward.
Hopefully as a babyface, since we could use him.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that would be good as well. Just because I don't think this should just end and just leave Murphy just as a guy who gets beaten up by Seth Rollins and then is just cast aside just to be in mid-card purgatory. And that could very easily happen because we've seen it many times before, but I would like to live in hope that this extends for a couple more months just to give enough reason for Murphy to want to just turn his back on Rollins or to lash out against him because Rollins is mistreating him, and then that leads to a match between the two of them.
I'd be down for that. So then we had our main event. This was the no-holds-barred triple threat match for the Universal Championship. Bray Wyatt against Braun Strowman. And you would think against Roman Reigns. But here is my my complaint. The beginning of my complaints, I should say. The whole SmackDown episode's building up to this idea that you have this big reveal that Paul Heyman is now the advisor for Roman Reigns, and that he's going to sign the contract with a couple little additions and stipulations tweaked and whatever. So he signed it, in theory. And yet, the way that they booked this match is Bray Wyatt gets attacked by Braun, and they just wrestle, and they brawl, and whatever. And Roman Reigns waits all the way until they do the fourth ever ring collapses and implodes on itself type of thing. Then Roman signs the contract and comes out. So, in theory, Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman could have won, either one of them could have won that match well before that point, and Roman Reigns wouldn't have signed the contract yet. And he would have just been like, well, you didn't sign the contract. You don't get your title match, idiot.
You would have signed the contract and then had a singles match. You're still entitled to a title match.
The whole thing is just stupid. Like that, I did not like that at all. I didn't like that they did the imploding the ring thing because this means nothing compared to the other times that they've done it. The first time, super amazing. Oh my God. Wow. What a memorable moment. Second time, okay, maybe you want to do that because you don't want to have it be like the Brock thing and you want to give Braun something big and whatever. Third time, you're like, oh, all right, well, we've seen this before. And then this one, it's immediately like, oh, wow, that thing happened again. And, oh, wait, Roman Reigns, I hear that's the most important thing. So why even bother doing it? You know?
Charles Robinson took a hell of a bump.
Yeah, he did. That was hilarious. Just watching him, just like you could tell that he missed his first cue to do it, and then they just looking over backwards, just falling over the top rope. It was just, I mean,
awesome.
they telegraphed that spot so quickly as well because you could immediately see Kevin Dunn getting a bit fidgety by panning out onto the entire side of the ring while they were up in the corner. Just like, okay, so they're about to do the exploding ring spot.
Yep.
Also, when the fuck does Braun Strowman try to climb on the top rope? Just the whole thing.
He has done it before.
Has
he
really?
He has done a diving headbutt to Roman Reigns, or at least attempted a diving headbutt to Roman Reigns before during their feud.
Oh.
So I wasn't like, I thought that he was about to dive in this, but then once Earthing gets up and goes for it, I thought, okay, they're about to do the exploding ring spot. And to be fair for this match, I mean, it was sheer lunacy this entire match, and that's kind of the best that I can hope for out of these ones because you're not exactly expecting a bell-to-bell classic between Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman. Obviously, Roman's a great wrestler, but the other two are very much more limited in what they do. And so just seeing like the sheer madness of some of the spots, the Uranagi through the announce table, getting that giant mallet out again and sort of just trying to whack Strowman in the chest with it, the cutaways to Alexa Bliss twiddling her ponytails on the monitor or whatever. Just every single part of it was, I can't say that I didn't have fun watching this match. Let's put it that way.
I wasn't on the hot tag, so I didn't get Tony's full hatred, I'm sure, of the Roman Reigns Paul Heyman thing.
Oh, I don't hate it.
Oh, good.
I like the idea that Roman could be heel. Like, this whole idea is interesting. I just feel like they're doing a piss poor job of following through with it.
I was more surprised. I'm surprised to hear that you didn't hate it because you know this is leading to Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, right?
That I'm going to hate if they do it. That's the thing I'm worried about.
I really don't get that feeling. Why do you guys get that feeling?
Because it's Paul Heyman and it's Roman Reigns and it's Brock Lesnar.
It's either leading to I don't say I'd hate it too much. I know Tony would hate it, but it's either leading to Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar WrestleMania for the Universal Championship, or it's leading to the greatest tag team that's ever existed of Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar.
I wouldn't be opposed to the latter. I mean,
I'd rather have that. Like, if that would have happened, that would be at least different enough that I'd be like, okay, I'm kind of interested.
I feel comfortable saying it's not leading towards Roman and Brock, and I just like that they're doing something different with Roman. You know, when he did the line at SmackDown, I was like, oh, they're teasing him working with Paul Heyman, and they immediately pan out to reveal he's already with Paul Heyman. I like that so much more than, hey, Roman's back again, and he's doing the whole, I'm the big dog, and it's my yard, and I'm not a good guy, I'm not a bad guy. He's just being a full-on bad guy. You know, he snuck in the ring, tried to pin the Fiend, got really desperate when he saw they were kicking out, just beat the shit out of them with the chair. Seemed concerned about his teeth, his new teeth, when the Fiend put the Mandible Claw in. Low blow to him, spear to Strowman. It plays out really well. I like the fact that Roman Reigns is doing something new.
I mean, I totally get your point about the late interruption and how one of them could have won the match in the time that he was building up. But that's been like a WWE trope for years and years. Remember, was it that Survivor Series where it was supposed to be Triple H versus Vladimir Kozlov versus Jeff Hardy?
And then
they just waited. Yeah, then they just waited until about 15 minutes into the match for Edge to turn up and get involved in it. And it's like, well, one of them could have won the match in the time in between that, and you decided to just wait until they were tired out. So you just have to try and like suspend your disbelief for that one. Just throw all logic out the window. But then again, you're watching a Fiend Bray Wyatt match. So all logic should be out of the window in the first place.
I hate when that's the argument is you shouldn't apply logic to things, because I'm like, you know, there's ways to get around things with logic. And I feel like this segment and a lot of what they're doing right now with a lot of things are, I mean, we know for a fact that some elements of WWE is always going to be, we'll figure it out later and hope that it works. And if it doesn't work, we're going to hope that you forget about it, or we're going to hope that you forgive us, or we're just going to act like we're mad that you remember. You know, like how many times, even like when you're listening to something to wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, where he's just like, fucking plans changed, move on, stop being mad that we fucked up. You know what I mean? Like, which is not like the best way to go about doing your jobs, and it's really annoying. Excuse me. But like with this, we know that the whole thing with Alexa Bliss didn't work out the way that it seemed like it should have. And if you look at the elements of this match, it really feels like a group of people got in a room and they were like, start pitching ideas. And then they wrote it all down and they were like, let's just kind of do them. So like somebody's like, well, how about it's like a triple threat match? And then somebody's like, how about it's like no holds barred? Yeah, we'll have like, you know, the mallet comes back or whatever. And maybe one person can jump the other one right at the beginning of it. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. And what if we do this whole thing where maybe Roman's not going to be a part of it? Oh, but what if we do that he is a part of it, but he's got Paul Heyman? Oh, but what if we do that he is, but he isn't? Okay, but then he comes in midway through. Well, we got to do the thing with Alexa Bliss thing.
Well,
oh, but the Bliss thing is going to be...
I know that you want to apply logic here, but the main takeaway is Roman's back. We're doing this thing with Roman. I forget about the Braun Strowman stuff with the Fiend. It seems like they're keeping Alexa, which is good. But the main thing here was Roman's with Paul Heyman, and that's the takeaway.
But it's just so frustrating because even with those elements on the side, it goes to show that they're not planning anything out, and that doesn't make me feel like the future from this Roman thing is going to work out, because if they're not planning anything, then they're going to run into problems. Like, the rumor going around right now is, well, Braun Strowman is definitively a heel, and Bray Wyatt is going to be the top babyface. If he's going to be the top babyface and associated with a heel Alexa Bliss, who's feuding with Nikki Cross, and she's full-blown heel, I mean, she smashed the mug and everything, that's not thinking straight. That's going, that'd be interesting if we did that, and if we did this, and if we did that, and we'll figure it all out. You know, I'm not a big puzzle person, but I do know that one way to make puzzle pieces fit together isn't to get a pair of scissors and cut the different pieces that you want to fit in there. And then you just throw it away and just go, you know, I saw the box. I know what it looked like. You know what I mean?
But here's the thing. They're trying their best to keep all the puzzle pieces in play, but clearly As soon as they got the okay for Roman, that became the top priority. And yeah, is Bray Wyatt going to be the top babyface? Sure. Can he fight Roman Reigns at TLC? Why not? But I think that this inevitably ends up with either Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, or Roman Reigns, John Cena at WrestleMania.
I mean, Roman Reigns is champion now. We all kind of figured that was going to happen especially once the whole thing with Paul Heyman came about, because then it's like there's no way you're having him lose that match now.
No, he's not Cesaro or anything.
Yeah, I thought that that they might get around with the whole thing of maybe Strowman takes the pin and whatever. As soon as they put Heyman out there, it's like, no, of course, that's definitely switching. But he's holding that title until WrestleMania at the very least. We know that's going to be the case, unless something weird happens, obviously, an injury or whatever. I think we're getting Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns for against whoever the NXT champion is as well, for Survivor Series. If NXT is a part of it, maybe they aren't this year. They might actually ignore that again. We've seen them go back on those kind of things. But Roman against Drew, I feel, is a part of that mix. I think that Roman's holding this until Brock Lesnar, which I'm really nervous about. I sort of don't think that they have much of a game plan going forward, and I'm nervous about that. And I really hope that they clean up this mess.
Why are you so sure that Brock Lesnar is just going to jump to SmackDown?
He wasn't SmackDown.
No, he wasn't.
He was last on Raw.
Yeah, but it's Brock Lesnar. He can jump wherever he wants to. That's what they essentially assigned in the first place. That's the reason he was on Raw in the first place, because he was drafted to SmackDown and then just moved to Raw.
Well,
so he just moved to SmackDown.
Well, why can't the Roman Drew McIntyre match be a setup for Heyman's other guy to return and beat up the guy who took the belt from him? And why can't Heyman be the one working both shows with Brock on Raw and Roman on SmackDown?
I don't know why you're so adamant about the idea of it not obviously leading to Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
Because we've already done that. Like, I don't see a reason to do that.
Because they did it. Because
now
they
you know
did
how
it
I feel.
once, and then they did it. And then they did it 3 years later because they wanted to. And that's always the match.
But what I'm saying is, it's been done. There are other paths.
When has that ever been an excuse for WWE?
Because they're finally taking a new path with Roman. I mean, what's the swerve here?
Yeah, the path is Roman's now the heel in the equation, and Brock Lesnar will be the babyface.
And you know what's going to happen when it comes down to them actually feuding? Well, we don't really want Brock to be a babyface, so he's going to be a heel. He's going to be cool, and Roman Reigns is going to be a heel. He's going to be cool, and we're going to have two heels against each other. And hey, you get to you get to root for whoever you want to root for, and as long as you're making noise, it doesn't matter if you're booing or cheering.
And then Otis runs in and cashes in the main event just to win the championship.
You know what? No, fuck both of you. Here's what's gonna happen at Super Showdown. Goldberg's gonna beat Roman, and then Brock Lesnar will beat Goldberg because fuck you.
That might happen, and then they'll go, well, we got to give Roman some kind of a win to make up for this. So he's going to go over to Raw, and he's going to beat either Keith Lee or Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. And, you bring up the Otis thing, though, and I wanted to talk about that. We've talked from the moment that Otis won this, he is a guaranteed loser. And now, I mean, I think that the writing's on the wall. Otis tries to cash in, and he just completely gets his ass whooped.
I think that's probably the likely scenario here,
and that's definitely 100%. I'll even go. You can't go past 100%, but I will. I'll say it's 1,000% not at all what their intention was when they put that on Otis.
I don't know what their intention was when they put it on Otis.
I can tell you though, out of all the options, that could not have been the scenario that they were thinking. There's no way in hell that anybody is going to convince me that when they were booking the Money in the Bank match, that they were thinking, hey, we're going to give this to Otis, who can lose to a heel Roman Reigns down the line. Not a chance.
No. Well, yeah, plans change. Roman becomes available. Yeah, we've already discussed this to death, so I'm not going to bring it up again. But yeah, I don't know how long this feud with The Fiend is going to go. I don't think it's going to extend any further beyond Hell in a Cell.
Hope not.
Just because I think that with the signs that they're continuing this Fiend and Alexa Bliss thing, that becomes a main focus going forward. Maybe that leads to a more extended Wyatt and Strowman feud, or somebody else involved with it, or Alexa becomes part of the act going forward. Roman can then move on to. I don't think they're going to do. I think they're going to do the same thing they did last year by just having title matches instead of having the free champions against each other. So I think Roman at Survivor Series will defend against Goldberg because Goldberg does have matches left in his contract. So
that wouldn't be shocking.
And they wanted to do that match in the first
Well,
place.
if he has 2 more years of 2 matches a year, he's done 2 matches this year, hasn't he? He's worked Strowman and he's worked Wyatt, so they can get away with not having Goldberg until Mania. My thing is, I don't see a lot of compelling characters on SmackDown right now. That's why Roman returning is so important, because, as we've said already, Otis has a guaranteed title shot at any opportunity, and SmackDown doesn't feel like a big deal. It definitively feels less than, and that's saying something, because Raw doesn't feel so hot right now as it is.
Well, you know what they also have done tonight and on last week's SummerSlam is they've been running these ads that they do here and there where it gives you an indication of at least what their current plans are for the next lineup of pay-per-views. We saw that it said Clash of Champions, Hell in a Cell, Survivor Series, TLC, Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, Super Showdown, WrestleMania, Money in the Bank. So the current game plan seems to be to still try to do Super Showdown around that time next year. Maybe we get Roman versus Goldberg then.
Yep. It will happen eventually, though.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to do it. So, and then, it's not bad that they're going to do it too. Like, that's not something to be like, oh, of course I'm going to complain about that too. No, I'm actually not complaining about that. That's something that they should do and follow through with the idea that they had done that ahead of time. And Roman can beat Goldberg, and that could be fine. That's not a bad thing. But I'm going to be a little bit annoyed if they do kind of fall back into that whole idea of Survivor Series is here, but we book champions that we don't want to put against each other, so let's just ignore that for part of that. We set our own rules, but we have to break our own rules because we didn't set them in a time frame for us to actually do the work and whatever. That's kind of annoying. I don't want to see a lot of these different angles that we can get going forward out of this. I'm hoping that they turn things around, and I'm hoping that this is one of those scenarios where shit happened. They were too confused. I don't think that this is a right excuse, but it is an excuse for them to be like, well, too many things are going on and we don't know, so let's just get past Payback and then we'll figure it all out after that point, and then we'll actually start implementing our plans. Might be the case. More than likely, probably not. And I don't feel like this was at all the right way to go about doing a lot of things, except for the fact that it's interesting that Roman Reigns is a heel champion with Paul Heyman. If you take everything else out of this entire thing, and it's just that, it's a thumbs up. If you add everything else to that, everything else is a thumbs down from me. I didn't enjoy any part of this but that.
I still enjoyed the match for its lunacy aspect of it. It's not a good, again, like I said, not bell to bell great action, but I thought this was just fun wackiness. And yeah, it's not logical, but it's I
nothing
can,
about
I
this
can
year
sometimes
is logical.
I can sometimes compartmentalize that.
Yeah, I think for what they had to work with, I thought this was a great show. They covered a lot of ground, and it was over by 9:30, and I can't say enough good things about that. Roman feels like a big deal. He feels important and fresh. They have the Heyman factor on SmackDown now. We don't know where that's going to go. There's still maybe the lingering aspect of Retribution. There's enough happening to where I'm just glad that in a year that saw us get like a 45-minute movie inside of Titan Towers, that we're just beyond that. And we're kind of getting back to traditional programming.
Yeah, they're not on that crutch anymore as soon as they figured out that Thunderdome stuff, didn't they?
Yeah. I wouldn't say overall this was a great show. It was until the final 2 matches, it was a very bland very forgettable show.
It was quicker
Then-
than Raw, and that's okay with me.
Oh yeah, I appreciate the fact that it was over very quickly. That's definitely a positive. I can definitely do with more of these pay-per-views being under 3 hours. But it's just a case of, I feel like it was the show ended up being levered slightly towards the thumbs up to me just because of the 2 final matches. One for being a really good tag team match, and the other one for its sheer just whack factor.
The OCD kind of side of me, or whatever you would want to call it, that loves organization and planning things and having a game plan and a direction going forward, is so frazzled with the way that WWE does things that I never feel happy at the end of these kind of shows, because I end up going, why didn't you just do this at SummerSlam, and why didn't this whatever, and I feel like it's a mess that I want to clean, so I don't feel good. But they did take a couple steps in some of the feuds on a positive way. Like, we do have a United States champion. I do think that was the right call. I'm very glad that we don't have Golden Role Models as tag champs anymore, so we can move faster through that whole feud. I am interested in Roman as a heel with Paul Heyman, as long as they don't botch the hell out of that. There's lots of things that could work. It's just a matter of, I didn't really, clean everything up the way that I wanted them to, and some of these things I don't have a whole lot of faith on. It's hard for me to kind of go, well, they'll figure it out, when we've had so many examples of them not. And, cry wolf 1,000 times kind of a thing. Just, yeah. But that's not all we have to talk about here, even though that was the last match. We got to kind of go back a little bit and talk about the repercussions that come out of this when it comes to the fantasy league. Callum, fill us in. What's the scope of this whole situation now?
Okay, so this is the first show where points were calculated. So the fantasy league basically officially starts here, even though we had the draft earlier this week. In terms of the pay-per-view predictions, we'll start there. Tony is once again the winner of the pay-per-view predictions, correctly predicting 7 out of the 8 matches. The only one that he missed out on was Randy Orton and Keith Lee. He backed Orton, but Lee won instead. Myself, Rob, and Wago all got 6 correct.
Stupid Sheamus.
Yeah, I went wrong with Orton and Sheamus. Rob went wrong with Sheamus and the Role Models. And Wago went wrong with the Role Models and the IIconics. So he got both women's tag team matches wrong, which I'm sure is pretty fitting for I assume that he wouldn't have enjoyed either of those matches anyway. So,
How bad did I die, Callum?
Sorry?
How bad did I die in this thing?
Okay, so in terms of the actual points scored, so there's quite a gap that's formed early on, but because of the actual level of each points that you get for certain results and certain ways things go, things can swing each way pretty quickly. So I'm not too don't think this is just like an indication that 2 people are about to walk this entire thing, and maybe they are, but I don't think it's going to be straight away. We'll start at the bottom with Rob shitheaded losers, or Rob the points.
No, I'm definitely robbed of points because I was robbed the entire night.
Yeah, so
Bullshit.
So he had 5 people competing on the card tonight. Bailey, who lost. Seth Rollins, who lost. Randy Orton, who lost. Sasha Banks, who lost. And Sheamus, who lost. So he has now a score of -37.
Especially because 2 of them lost titles.
Yes, exactly. So they got the extra bonus losses for that. Wago is next on the agenda. So he only had Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman on this show. Obviously, both of them lost because they were both part of the main event triple threat. They get the additional bonus for being in the main event of the pay-per-view. But also Bray Wyatt lost the Universal Championship. So he has a -15 at the moment. And then we have a tie at the top of the fantasy league right now with myself and Tony, both on 75 points. So it's quite a gap already at the moment, but we'll see how it goes. So my points were scored by Bobby Lashley, who won the pay-per-view match and won the United States Championship. Shayna Baszler, who won the pay-per-view match and also won the Women's Tag Team Championship, and Big E, who won his match as well. So that gave me my 75 points. Tony got his points mainly from Roman Reigns. Had the win, had the additional main event bonus, and won the Universal Championship. So Roman Reigns scored 45 points
Nice.
on this night, and his two other points were scored by Matt Riddle and Keith Lee, both getting victories. So that was both of us totaled with 75 at the end of this. So yeah, we're off to the a good start, both of us. We'll have to see how the rest of it goes the remainder of this week.
Awful night.
The mangoes don't kneel. I'm telling you.
Obviously, because Tony won the pay-per-view prediction, that means that at any point between now and Clash of Champions, or during one of our trade weeks, he has an extra draft pick that he can make from the the free draft pool. If he so wishes to use it, obviously he doesn't need to use it, but that's his prerogative to use any single week that he wants to. So the teams are locked in place until SmackDown this week. So once SmackDown ends, then drafts trades become available for the following week. Obviously, trades would have to be made that weekend before Raw starts, and then that's when the points get tallied all over again. So I'll be able to keep in touch with these guys, make sure that you're updated in the Mega Maniacs as to what trades been made. I assume that Wago want to get rid of Karrion Kross pretty quickly, as will Rob with Edge, I imagine. So
yeah, that's happening.
But we'll see how the points are looking at the end of the week. This is just the first show, so a lot could change between now and WrestleMania.
Babyface comeback, man. Gonna do it.
I can spoil one thing. I'm not going to be itching to get rid of Roman Reigns.
And here I thought we had a shot there.
Woo! Mangoes don't kneel. Doing me good.
I mean, I am winning. I am winning with you, so don't get too comfortable up there.
We'll see. What are we both at? We're at 70. What?
75 points.
75, and the next high up is Wago at what point?
Minus 15.
Okay.
Like I say, there is currently was it 100 and
two?
Oh, it's 112 point gap.
Whoa,
between us and Rob.
You know, that's okay. Gonna come back like you've never seen before. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be tremendous.
Well, my good sir, I will toast my champagne glass to you here at the top.
Yes. It's pretty lonely up here right now. It's just like, look, we actually can't actually see them because they're below the Earth's surface right now. That's how high.
These fantasy league points are so pedantic. Well, yeah. So we got fantasy league stuff coming up throughout these, next little bits, and track that on the Mega Maniacs. Like Callum was just saying. That is the fallout from our second pay-per-view in a week. And hey, look at that. We got another one coming up because the next whole setup that we've got going on for the next week with Smack Talk and the podcast and everything happening here on the website and stuff is going to be another lineup of pay-per-view points because now it's AEW's turn because AEW has their All Out coming up on this Saturday. So we're going to follow along with the normal trend here. The next time you're going to be hearing from us is going to be the predictions for that show. Then we're going to eventually maybe change some things around on that card if that ends up being the case, because we are going to do that prior to Dynamite. And then after Dynamite, we're going to do the hot tags on that Friday. So if there are any updates to the card or anything, then we'll address them there. You got the next episode of the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast coming up after that. And then we've got the post show for All Out. So we're going to do a lot of things next week. And that's the usual lineup. We know that we're going to get, for instance, the NXT Super Tuesday stuff we're going to address on the hot tags. And we're going to get a new NXT champion. Not sure what else is going to be on the hot tags, but plenty of things to be talking about over the next few days. And if you're following the Facebook and the Twitter account, that's Smark at Moment. If you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, you're following us on whatever different platform you're listening to us, you should be aware of when those things get posted, when they get posted. And I am going to be taking care of that over the next few days. But these guys have another thing that they work on, and that's going to be coming up as well. Part of that whole lineup that I just mentioned, the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast. Tell us a little bit more about that, Callum.
Well, first of all, before I start plugging that, I just want to remind people that because we're doing the AEW pay-per-view predictions, that none of those predictions will count towards the prediction contest in terms of like what will affect the fantasy league. That's just a bit of fun. AEW doesn't have a fantasy league yet, so maybe if it's something that this really captures on, then maybe we'll do like a joint one or a separate one going forward. But at the moment, it's just WWE focused. So, but in terms of Paul Heyman SmackDown, every Saturday, me and Rob go back in time to the year 2002 and check out all of the shows that Paul Heyman was the lead writer for SmackDown. Obviously, Paul Heyman's back now in Focus, where as he wasn't previously, like being kicked out of the Raw side of things.
Look at how that worked out again.
Yeah, so it all comes full circle. I think it was probably the power of our podcast bringing him back to SmackDown eventually.
That's right.
But yeah, so we go back, we review all those episodes. We also review pay-per-views, which you can get through the $10 tier on the Patreon. So if you sign up to that level, you can hear us review shows like We've Done Vengeance 2002, Global Warning 2002, and SummerSlam 2002. And the next one up will be Unforgiven. So make sure you're caught up on that level. So if you want to hear more from us, then that's where you'll find it. You can follow me on Twitter at Weekmeister14 and check out the power rankings as well as every other article on smarkoutmoment.com.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Twitter at DudeFelice. Check out everything I got going on over at Fightful.com. Check out Fightful Select. Sean Ross Sapp, happy birthday, is working really hard on all those scoops over at Fightful Select, so check all that out. Check out the WrestleZone news feed and the WrestleZone Daily podcast, which I regularly contribute to. And donate to Fanboys Anonymous, because Tony and I just covered Superman Man of Tomorrow, and I just watched Deathstroke Knights and Dragons, and I want to talk about it.
But what is that? Actually, I don't even know what that is.
It's an animated movie about Deathstroke.
When the hell did that come out?
Earlier this year, actually.
Huh. Never even heard of it until you just said it right then. Like, there's a Deathstroke thing? Fuck.
It's good. You gotta watch it.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Talk about it.
Yeah. What's it called?
Deathstroke
Knights and Dragons. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out at some point. And if you want us to do some kind of a review, again, fanboysanonymous.com. Show some love. Do it. Come on. You know you love it. Yeah, follow me at Tony Mango. Follow A Mango Tree. Keep paying attention to those websites. Show some love in whatever fashion you can, even if it's just, following what we've got going on and listening to the shows and clicking on an article or clicking on an ad or I don't know, whatever it is. And be kind to everybody else that's out there in the world. Wear a mask. Stop making this world a worse place. Everybody else is doing a far enough bad job at that, so don't add more to it. Put a smile on other people's faces instead. Hopefully we did that for you for this episode, and we're going to do that again the next time around. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.